joining me this morning. Anthony Kila, who is a professor of development and strategy, and is also the director at the Center for International Advanced and Professional Studies. Thank you so very much for joining me this morning, Prof.
Good to be here. Good to be here. Good to see you again.
Yes, good to see you too. Let's start, briefly on, the current going on in the country. And I'd like us to start with the current lingering fuel scarcity, that has refused to let Nigerians breathe. I wanted to ask of your opinion, what exactly do you think as a people, as a government, we are getting wrong?
Well, I think, as a people, this is one thing. People always say the followership, the citizen. This is one thing to which you can rarely blame the people, because the people have no say in this matter. The import and the general distribution of petrol in the country is largely a monopoly of the NNPC. So, it's not like people can do anything. They can only just take whatever they have. So it's solely dependent on government. I think it speaks very badly of government. Firstly, because, honestly speaking, even if we were a country that does not produce crude oil, having fuel scarcity is a bad thing. There's something barbaric. There's something that shows you cannot organize yourself, because energy in the form of petrol is one of the most crucial elements that we use in the country. In Nigeria, it's even more important because we use it not just as other people use it to fuel their car, but also because we use it for things like generators, so it's a very crucial element of our life. So even if we did not do crude oil, having fuel scarcity in a place where there's no war or earthquake tells you about some deficiency in management and leadership, i.e. the ability to predict the amount of what you need, make sure you have in advance. With good management, we shouldn't be living hand to mouth as we do with petrol now. We should be topping up, we should have a reserve for X period of time, and whatever happens, we should be able to, face that storm until we store it. We shouldn't be using what we have. You compound it with the fact that we're actually a crude oil producing country. And that reminds you that our refineries are not working. I see people lament about it. They think it's bad. But if you really think about it, it's worse than it looks like. When you put together all these elements I'm telling you about management as any country in the world that is not in war or in any kind of major disaster, link it up then with the situation that we're actually a crude oil producing country that has been spending so much on refineries. It just tells you there's something wrong. I'm tempted to say with us as a people, but in reality, it's with our government. I don't believe in lumping people and government together. This is the government. This is a few people in power and those close to them that are putting the whole of the country in problem. Now, there's one sad part to it. Before, up till about 1.5 years ago, we had one man who was president, a lanky, fair man, that one that has gone to Daura now. Now we have a short, dark-faced one who's now president. That lanky one did a lot of bad things to me, to my view. But at least somehow he managed to reduce this fuel scarcity problem. It is very painful that this short, dark one, the city boy, under him, they share in common the obsession of being Minister for Petroleum. And therein finishes the differences, because then you now have fuel scarcity on that one. You don't have it under another one. We ought to be improving, not deteriorating. So it's a very painful thing. The sector itself is a very unclear sector. You can't get a straight answer to simple questions. And things should not be allowed to continue that way.
I wanted to push back respectfully on the issue of you saying the citizens, the people have essentially no stake in what is going on. because I say this because a lot of the time it is the docility of the citizens that the government often, ride on. Because we've been buying fuel lately. For some states, it's been 600, and in some states, it's over 1,000. Yet, the product isn't available, and people have to spend a lot of productive hours on the queue. At what point do we as a people then begin to say, we cannot be paying this much and then still be spending this number of productive hours on the queue and still not get the fuel to go home?
Well, there are two things to be said about that. Let's clarify. When I say I absolve the people, what I mean is that the people have no say in availability or scarcity of fuel. That what they can do is protest. What they can do is stay at home. What they can do is devise ways of working or working from home, or reduce the amount of going out they do. I will see if there's anybody that can do a study on the influence of fuel scarcity and long-distance relationship across Nigeria, or extramarital relationship with the idea of fuel scarcity. It would be good to do such kind of studies. But generally, people cannot do anything. They can only buy, not buy, or protest. That is what I mean by absolving the people from that. Now, the issue you raised about availability, or in this case, non-availability at very high prices, I see what you're doing there. You are alluding to the issue of fuel subsidy. Now, to the issue of fuel subsidy, for some reason, and this makes me laugh, even well-intentioned people, in the past few years in this country, they've convinced everybody that fuel subsidy is an evil that needs to be dealt with, to be removed. Well, let me point out that I have remained unconvinced about all the arguments they brought forward about fuel subsidy. I have written about it, I've spoken about it. They say, I am not convinced, and I say this as an economist that went to one of the best schools in the world. I studied these matters. The numbers don't tally up. But if people don't believe me, now what has happened in this country is that we've removed fuel subsidy, and we're worse than where we were when there was fuel subsidy. When there was fuel subsidy, that was fuel, and the price was low. They removed it, there's no fuel, and the price is high. So what's the gain of it? Maybe tomorrow it will be better, but so far so bad. We need to admit that immediately. The argument they've brought forward for the removal of subsidy is that A, we cannot afford it. B, it is corruption reading. We cannot afford it. I have a lengthy argument against that. Because I believe in parity, I believe in opportunity cost, I believe in rationalization of resources. I leave out the theory that says there's no subsidy, that the whole thing is a scam. Let us leave it as that. Let us admit that there is subsidy. To say we cannot afford it, while we can afford other things, that I can make a very long case against that. But I leave that case aside. Let me make a short case, rather. There's also a case about fuel subsidies reading with corruption. So therefore, what do we do about it? We remove it. That is something that does not stand on its head. I want people to think about it this way. It's like saying that some people are stealing in the kitchen, so therefore we stop giving children and the family food. We lock up the kitchen. Of course, we're not going to do that. What we need to do is to do a forensic audit of all the people involved in fuel subsidy and see where the corruption is, stop it, and instead of punishing millions of people, we punish a few thousand people. I don't even want to punish them. I just want them to stop stealing. I really don't believe in, this punishing or dealing with people. I just want them to stop stealing. You cannot say, because how many people are involved in this fuel subsidy business? The whole of the oil and gas industry. I mean, the people who share subsidy. There are less than 10,000 people in Nigeria. So because of less 10,000, that's even a lot. I'm very sure there are less than 5,000 people in the whole of Nigeria. So because of less than 10,000, 5,000 people who are involved in importation, financing, and allocation of subsidy, you're making millions of Nigerians suffer. You're taking away from millions to stop thousands from operating. It doesn't make sense. There's something about it that we should look at ourselves and wonder what is wrong with us. And hear the people come in, because the narrative of, oh no, the fuel subsidy is an evil that should go, is something that has pervaded the world. And I say this thinking of some people who went under Jonathan, went out to strike, to protest, that wrote a lot of words against Jonathan for trying to remove, he didn't try to remove, he tried to reduce fuel subsidy. When I say that conscience would deal with them, history would deal with them. Because it's either they discovered something, it's either they were stupid then and they've become wise now, or they've always been wise and they were hypocritical and liars then. And that is a very bad thing, you know, whichever way. I remain, my opposition to the Jonathan intervention, for whom I went to the street for, remains on principle, not partisan, not political, not personal. It remains on the idea that there can be a different way of doing it. So I think everybody will have to deal with their conscience and history on this matter, because a lot of people who are in power now in this country were saying no then. Now they're saying yes. And I think it's something that is worthy of consideration.
So the other part of that question is that, do you think that as Nigerians, we are holding our leaders accountable enough so that leaders don't continue to see us as docile people? Fela once said several years ago in a song that my people said they fear too much. We fear for the things we don't see. We fear for the things around us. We fear to fight for freedom. We always have reasons to fear. We don't want that. Is that what our leaders are taking advantage of?
Well, I don't think it's because our people fear too much. I think really it's because our leaders can kill us that people are afraid of. We have created a system, and I'm not referring to this government, it's a whole system that we have. A faulty constitution, a unitary system, a system, a process where government is so powerful and people so weak, you know, to the extent that regulators can threaten people. Look at what they did with Dangote. Look at what they did with other operators. The government is so powerful that the checks and balances are so weak that it does not allow people to act very well. What can people do? Vote or protest. You know, is all they can do. In fairness, there are people who are talking. You know, there are writers. I belong to the League of Columnists. There are a lot of people writing, expressing their views and criticizing and offering solution as well. And some people go to court, some people do protest. You know, people are trying. I think people just need to, you can never say you're holding government account enough. It's never enough. You know, it's a continuous process. It's a living process that keeps growing. We need to keep doing it. And but I think it is not that people are docile. People are hungry, desperate, confused, even despondent. You might not believe it, but you need a bit of, yes, you need anger, but you need a bit of comfort to be able to plan opposition or protest. People are so much in disarray that they can't even do that. You know, they're thinking of how to pay their light bills, how to pay their petrol bills, how to pay their hospital bills. So they're left with hope and prayer. I always, when we talk about things, I always think of leadership. You know who I would call docile, irresponsible, is the opposition on one side, and totally the whole group of ruling class who are not so poor, who are not so despondent. The people in the National Assembly, from opposition party, politicians from opposing side, who cannot get their act together. The opposition in Nigeria is divided, divisive, almost dead. Actually dead. You can say that, you know, like on a dead bed, if not dead totally. They cannot oppose, they cannot propose alternative solution. So that role, which is their role, you can't find it. What is the difference between APC, PDP, and indeed Labour in the National Assembly? Have you heard them stand up to say, we don't want this because we're Labour? We don't want this because
Prof,
we're
can I just
PDP?
quickly butt in? It's interesting you mentioned this because I, spoke to one of the leaders of the PDP, I think it was last week, Mr. Shegun Showumi, and I put this question, before him that it doesn't seem like the opposition in Nigeria, it doesn't seem like they are biting. All they do is back. And he got upset and said, no, they are doing a lot as an opposition party. So I said, what exactly is the PDP doing? And he said they write on Twitter, they do this, they do that, they're always speaking. And for them, that is enough. That if they were to do anything outside of that, it was going to make the country ungovernable. And that's not what they want to do. Oh, can you hear me?
Well, yes, I can hear you now. Yes, I can hear you. Well,
yeah.
Shegun Showumi is a PDP man, he's a party man. And it is natural for people who are inside the kitchen to think they're cooking and sweating. The people who are doing the job always thinking they're doing a lot. It is from outside that you can really gauge what they're doing. And unfortunately for them, it is only from outside that they can get really score. They need to learn that what we say is what matters, not what they feel or what they do. From the outside, it appears they're not doing nothing. What we see is a party where there is some are for Wike, some are not for Wike, some are for Southern, some are for this. You don't really feel their presence. They need to learn. In 2014, when APC was going to gain power, you could feel opposition present in this country. So, it's not a difficult comparison to make. It's not difficult to benchmark the presence of opposition. So I want to say this so that I'm not saying it in abstract. If you want to see an opposition that work, look at Nigeria in 2013, 2014, 2015. There you will feel opposition. We're not feeling that now. Until we feel that, let them race. Since you were saying Fela Kuti, second base.
Okay. So how much of the problem that Nigeria is experiencing in the oil and gas sector would you say was self-inflicted, and how much of it would you say is inevitable?
Oh, absolutely. I believe 99% is self-inflicted. I leave the 1% because no man is an island. Look, unlike other countries in the world, we have crude oil. Our situation is a peculiar situation. Unlike other countries, we have crude oil. If you have crude oil, the next thing to do is to have refineries straight away. I inherited a farm. I have a farm. We make palm oil. The first thing we do is to make sure that the tree, when the kernels are, we turn it to oil. If you have crude oil, you must think of doing refinery straight away. The fact that we've not been able to do refinery, the fact that we've not been able to store enough for rainy days, the fact that we've not been able to set up a system where we do not leave hand to mouth, I repeat, where we just top up. The countries we sell crude oil for, they're not buying what they're going to use next week, not next month. Some of them not even next year. The reserve is there. They're just buying to top it up. The fact that we have to feel, even if something happens in the world, that we have to feel it, just shows sheer incompetence. An incompetence that allows corruption, that allows every other thing. So, so you ask me self-inflicted global affairs. No. Mostly self-inflicted, because the global affairs, you can manage it. In the middle of the global affairs, some of our people are still eating imported food. So don't tell me they can't manage it.
I wanted to also find out, what I actually said was how much of it was self-inflicted and how much of it was inevitable. The problems in the oil and gas sector. How much of it was inevitable?
I don't believe in it. You see, inevitable problem is what you have in your private life. Because somebody owes you money and they don't pay, because you miss a bus, because there's no light, because you don't have enough money, because you're a bit unlucky. That is what you do, because you go to an exam and you prepare very well on a part, and then you get there, most of the questions come from the part that you've not prepared on, or you go for a job interview and the person that wants to employ you already has somebody in mind. Those are things that happen to individuals. when you come to a collective, to a country of 200 million people, with the amount of money you have, inevitability is not a factor anymore. Why? Because you sit down and plan. Let me remind our viewers of something that we tend to forget. When we talk about governor, minister, senator, these people have officers, they have consultants, they have assistants that are well paid, that are supposed to think things through. They don't even need to be geniuses themselves, to think things through. Better still, if they're bright, you don't want a dullard managing brilliant people, because he or she will not get it. And I know some examples, I won't mention names, who simply don't get what you're telling them. So you want somebody that can understand it and can think. You see, the whole essence of a civilized, even if not civilized, organized system, organization, organized community, is your ability to sit down, predict, project, and prevent. Then when you can back it up with resources, like Nigeria can do, there's no reason to talk about inevitability. Look, let's put it this way. If I was president of Nigeria today, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say energy is an essential element of this country. So therefore, I'm declaring an emergency. I'm going to call like a war cabinet to say whatever happens, let there be petrol. And we, if need be, fly in with helicopters. If need be, flight around the country. Let there be, fill up, give me a list of every petrol station, get me the petrol, stop every other expenditure, fill it up, then let's plan from there. That is the mindset that you need. You stop the problem, then you build on that. Then you say, as from today, we're going to store up all our facilities. So any petrol we buy is going to top up what we have that will last us 100 days. That will be a fixed reserve. Then from there, you then go on to think, we must make our refineries work. What exactly? Set up a group of people and say, get me all the problem of this refinery thing. And give them a deadline, let it work. Go there, I'm simplifying, but we need to simplify so we can understand. Go there, put light up in the place. Let people work there in shift, 24 hours non-stop. So that what should be done in one day, what normally you take 3 days to do, you do it in 1 day because you're doing 8-hour shifts. It's a mindset, it's a commitment, it's a vision to think that way, to put people first, but then you also need the intelligence, the exposure, the education, the commitment, and the resources to back it up.
Well, some people would think, some people might argue that maybe that's exactly what the president, wanted to do when he made himself the substantial minister in that, sector. And in that light, I wanted to ask, do you agree with those people calling for the president to resign and step aside as the petroleum minister?
Well, when the president made himself petroleum minister, I was one of some people that said it's a bad idea from the onset. There's no reason in this country for people to accumulate portfolios. We're too many for one person to be taking 2 positions, no matter how good you are. It just doesn't make sense. It smacks of some kind of unnecessary arrogance, mistrust, and unnecessary deference that we have. No one person should be taking more than one portfolio. We're 200 million people. If you share all the positions, there will still be people without positions. Nobody is so smart, so capable, so committed, so patriotic that only he or she has to do many things. No, we're in democracy, in a civilized society of educated people, of equals. We need to learn to delegate and devolve, then put checks and balances to trust. So, I wouldn't ask for his resignation. I asked for him not to even take it in the first place.
Prof, do you think that the government, last question on this before we move on, do you think the government is doing enough to explain its programs and policies to Nigerians in such a way that Nigerians can appreciate what the problems are, understand the direction of travel that the government is heading, and even when they go into their filling stations to queue for hours, they know why they are doing so?
Well, you can never explain enough. Like accountability, you need to keep explaining. Just like the pastors and all clerics, the pastors on Sundays and the imams on Friday. I see some imams are doing Sundays now as well. God help us. Like they do every week, they keep preaching. You need to keep preaching. But the problem we have there is that I'm not sure preaching is enough. It's going to be difficult to explain queues and increase in price to people. You make it worse when the people asking people to, be patient and sacrifice are not seen to be sacrificing or being patient. If they keep buying jets and SUVs for themselves and they keep leading the same life they're living, it's going to be tough to explain anything to people. I'm very worried about this idea of explaining as well, because I won't go to a foreign country. Let me stay in this Nigeria. Jakonde, when he was governor of Lagos, he didn't explain, he was acting. The likes of Bola Ige, the Lamb of Samuel Bakwe, they were not explaining, they were doing things. Awolowo did not explain. Michael Okpara did not explain. They did them. They were there. This explanation thing, it's good to explain. I'm a teacher. I'm an explainer, just like a preacher. Explanation, I'm never against explanation. But sometimes you need action. How do you explain to somebody that the food you're cooking is fantastic, but you're hungry, bear with me? At some point, they get tired. I wonder if you have to think of those family dinners they go that they say mom is cooking, or the day the madam of the house decides to cook, and everybody's hungry for a very long time. It doesn't cut it for me. Explanation, yes, but actions speak louder than words.
Let me ask you this question quickly on the performance of the Tinubu ministers. I think it was last month that they clocked a year in office. Which one of them would you say, would you describe as a performer, and which ones would you say have disappointed you, and which ones would you say they are a liability of this government and therefore they need to go?
Well, let us start by saying that when they were nominated 1 year ago, I went on to say I wasn't impressed by their process and by most of their nominations. And I said it then, and people were saying I was being pessimistic. I didn't allow them to sit down before criticizing them. We have a problem in this country. We look at consequence, we don't look at sequence. I argued then that two things were wrong in their coming to cabinet, and those two things were dangerous for us. And that is what has happened. The first thing was I said that the administration that Tinubu succeeded took too much time to create his ministry, his cabinet. So one very simple low-hanging fruit, and this is what I call, well, after the first subsidy is gone thing, the other original sin of the Tinubu administration. He could have at least, just to make a point, nominated his cabinet way quicker than the Buhari one. Not wait to the long thing. That already showed you. It already showed you then that, the night is not looking good. The way this morning is looking. It already gave you some sign that something was bad. The second thing is that, though the Constitution does not say so, they could have come with their cabinet attached to them. So that way, each person will come with a plan, a manifesto, an idea of what they were coming to do. You see, if they had come with that, it would be easy to judge them now based on what target they set themselves. You ask, so that is an original sin. I say this so that we can put it into context, because I didn't wait for 1 year, unlike our esteemed Professor Shoyinka did, to say, let me give them a year or two before I judge it. I predicted trouble the way the thing was going on. That this, and viewers can Google it. This is the digital age to see my views when I said I wasn't impressed by this thing, the way it was going. If they had come with a manifesto, a plan, it will have been clear what exactly they're doing. So when we want to judge them now, what do we judge? How do we judge agriculture? You can judge agriculture by availability of food in the country, possibility of exporting food, and decrease in price of food. That is not happening. How do you judge economy? Creation of wealth and job, reduction in price, increase in production and productivity. That is not happening. How do you judge aviation? Reduction in price of fares, airports and airlines that are safer, reduction in fares, I said, availability of more flights. You cannot say that. How do you judge the energy sector? Reduction in price, more stable light. How can you say those things? So guess what? Anybody who has done well among this lot is an average man among dwarfs. If I'd my way, I would dissolve the whole cabinet and start again. Maybe save the savable, but nobody comes to my mind as being savable. Nobody, has stood out.
What about the Minister of Interior?
Look, they look like a good student in a class of special needs. What have they achieved, any one of them? Nothing spectacular has happened. And I say this not to belittle people, but to raise our standards. If we keep saying somebody has done well because he has come to class 8 out of 10 times, you're not going to get good grades when they compare you to the rest of the schools in the region or the country. You need to raise your standard. My students know that. I push for the very high standards, but you help them. You give them a good curriculum, give them materials to study, guide them, counsel them, then you tell them to go for the best. Not the best in the school, not the best in the state, the best in the world. I heard some people saying, no, we're better than the J. Gosh, you want to compare Nigeria to bad countries? I don't look back, I look ahead. You compare yourself to people who are better than you. So, sorry, sir. No, there's nobody to praise for me.
Looking at the ministerial list, considering the problems that we externally have in the oil and gas sector, do you think the Minister of State for Petroleum should resign?
Well, what can he do? The Minister of State for Petroleum, he shouldn't resign. He should be fired. I mean, but then again, what can he do? The president is his boss. What exactly can he be doing? I don't even know why he took that position. If he had in mind for it, he's somebody there. He's behind the agbada of the president. I hear his name is Henneken.
Yes.
Maybe you should go and drink. I mean, I don't even know what what can he do? What exactly? The Minister of State is a junior minister, isn't it?
Yes.
So what exactly can he do when the senior minister is there? Why should we be bothered about junior ministers?
But the senior minister is the president, and the president seems to be inundated with the problems of Nigeria.
Well, Kende, if you want to fire the president, say so. Because I don't know, because if the problem is petrol, and we say who's the minister, well, okay, let's sack the minister too for petrol as well. Let him sack himself and put somebody else there. I don't know.
So as a professor of strategy and development, what do you think we are getting wrong? What exactly are we getting wrong in issues such as this? It's not a new problem. What do you think we are getting wrong?
Well, let me start by saying something. I seem very harsh on this thing, but let me say something that even the worst critics of the Tinubu candidate before the Tinubu administration did not expect for things to be this bad. Because I think things just went wrong somehow. So what are we getting wrong? I think we get we're getting the process wrong. I said earlier on that we tend to look at consequence without looking at sequence. We get little things wrong, then the big things blow up in our face. Contrary to what people think, I am convinced that the Tinubu administration and everybody around him, they mean well for Nigeria. They don't go there to say, let's see how to make our people suffer. That's not the intention. If they had their way, if they had a magic wand, they would do things in a way that everybody would be praising them, and Nigerians will be happy and they'll be singing their songs. But unfortunately, they get little things wrong. What they get wrong, that is your question, is ability to plan and be dedicated to people. So when you're elected president and you go on to say subsidy is gone without putting any plan in place, you're calling for trouble. That is the chronicle of a foretold disaster. You do not sit down to say, if we do this, what exactly is going to happen? You have not thought it through. You throw people from the window, then you throw some cushion after that.
You think it was an unforced error?
Sorry?
You think it was an unforced error?
Absolutely unforced. I not only think, I said it at the time. That was not necessary. The lanky man that did that thing, that made the thing pass, he did it like a bomb. Then he went away. He made sure it didn't explode in his own face. President Tinubu said he was possessed by the spirit of courage. That is a bad spirit, Mr. President. Let me say directly to him. The good spirit would have been for him to say, I know for something is about to expire, but I'm going to prolong it so we can see what we can do to manage it better. That is vision and courage with pragmatism, but it is also with compassion, because you don't want people to suffer. If you say, let's just do it, I suspect that this administration is following some kind of, and here there's an ideological difference. They're following some kind of political ideology, some kind of political economy theory that does not take cognizance enough of the suffering of the people. I think that is, that is where the kind of issues are. The thinking that just suffer it through, just be patient, it will be better. It might be, I hope it is better, but what if it's not? They say hardship, then there's light after the tunnel. There's light after the tunnel for those who stay alive. What about who die physically or in terms of businesses? I argue there's another way, and that is what we get wrong. We've not followed that other way of being compassionate, of thinking that every life matters, every business matters, every job matters, that we need to create more or less. I think that is what we get wrong. Planning in that way to avoid hardship and to be more people-centric.
So let's move on to other issues now. A few weeks ago, because Nigeria's problem is never ending. A few weeks ago, the Ministry of Education, under the leadership of Tahir Mama, woke up one morning and said they were going to bar students who were under 18 from writing NECO and WAEC. How did you receive that news?
Well, first of all, I prayed for him, because if the people of his village are affecting him, I pray that they do not destroy other things that he has achieved in his life. Because what he has come up with is something that is wrong in terms of priority, in terms of process, and in terms of practice. It is wrong in terms of priority because in this, Tahir Mamman is a minister of a country that has close to 20 million people or over children out of school. Is a minister of education in a country where too many schools have their infrastructure dilapidated and staffs are underpaid, ill-motivated. Do you know that a lot of people say in Nigeria, much to my shame? I say, what do you do? They say, for now, I'm teaching. They're not proud to be teachers. People don't respect them. Government don't pay them enough. Then of all that problem that is going on, this guy wakes up and his own idea is to say that people who are of certain age should not go to school. What? The school is too crowded? What's his concern? Now, that is priority. That is wrong. Process is also wrong because when he did that law, he has fumbled forward and backward. They did not think of the consequence that if I do it today, how will it affect people? They have done that law and they've not made provision for people who finish school at 16. What are they going to be doing? Do they want to revert back to the A-level system? Do they want to do prelim? They've not broken down all those things. Now, and I'll come back to the process later on because he clearly did not consult with people. If he had consulted with people, he would have noticed something very simple thing that, one, generally speaking, the best results from JAMB, from WAEC, from NACO are by the youngest students. It is actually the very young ones that are getting the very best results, not the matured ones that he's going about. Those very young ones, that is their entry point into university. By the time they finish, and I want our viewers to check what I'm saying out, the first-class graduates also tend to be the youngest. You know who they are? Those ones that entered at a very young age. So the idea that people are not matured enough to go to the rigor of study is a false idea. They're brilliant. And God knows we need more brilliant people. We need to be encouraging them, rewarding them, not telling them to be patient. one of the mistakes he has made is that the way education is now, we shouldn't be worried about bachelors, because the bachelor's degree of today is equivalent of the school start of about 30 years ago. There is rarely anything you want to do in the world today that does not require a professional or postgraduate qualification. So the bachelor's just prepares you for that. I want our viewers to look around themselves. Do you know anybody who's actually doing a job that they've not done some extra qualification for, extra training? Whether you're going to be a broadcaster, a banker, a writer, a doctor, a lawyer, a carpenter, a business person, at some point you find yourself doing a postgraduate or a professional program. So the age at which you get your bachelor's means nothing anymore. Now, I suspect that this minister did not consult anybody, or he consulted the wrong people. What were it? If he has consulted some people, I will invite him to let us have those names of the people he consulted and advise him to go this route, so we can have some conversation with them as well. It's a very wrong idea. Let him go and focus on building schools, making schools secure, retraining teachers, and remunerating them well, not delay people. He wants them to be patient so that they can be dull.
So when the announcement was made, one of the things that got me thinking was that how can the education minister of a country big as Nigeria not know all of the data you just read out now? How can he not know that young children, whenever JAMB or WAEC releases the result of the best student each year, it is always 16-year-old, it is always 50-year-old, not only in Nigeria, the Macedon,
it's everywhere in the world.
Kingdom, it's everywhere. So how can
you know what?
Not know this?
But Kende, before I answer that question, let me add something to it. It is not only in education. Something is happening in the world. If you look at sports, the age of champions is reducing. If you look at the entertainment industry, the age of the stars, they're younger than they used to be before. If you look at business, the age of CEOs is gone down. It's something going on in the world because the world is faster. Some of us let me put myself and Diamond in the same bracket. Here and I, when we were doing our postgrad, we had to travel from one university to the other to go and look for books. We're dealing with people who, from their desks, they will access libraries and get all the things they want. While he was doing this, I was arguing elsewhere that MBA should not be 1 year anymore. You don't need 1 year to do the masters anymore, because you can do it quickly. Maybe you want to use some months more for projects or practical projects, because you don't need that traveling for research, ordering for one book, saying the book is not available, going through it anymore. That's just that the world is faster, and that is what is going on. So he missed it. Now, question: how will he miss that? It's either because they talk to wrong people, or because they have some interest they're not declaring, or because they have a vision of the world that is different from our world, or, as Ruben Abati has said, there is something in Abuja, there's something in Aso Rock that enters people's head. Some spirit that we need to pray against, if those who believe in prayer, because it doesn't make sense. But here, and we're closing with where we started from, the accountability you're talking about. If we had a good process in place that forces a minister to explain what he's doing and why he's doing it, we will not be guessing why. He will have had to make a case for not what he's doing, for what he intends to do. He should have made a case to the nation, their parliament, and true stakeholders to say, this is our plan, what is your input, this is what we hope to achieve, and this is why we're doing it. That, I think, is one of the things that is missing in this country, and that is how we get things wrong. Because if we have that kind of process in place, even if the people of the village are trying to do something to destroy the reputation of the minister or to make him do something crazy, that system will purge the spirit of the village, of the spirit of the villa from him.
In his defense, the minister said it was an inherited policy. And because people like you had always been arguing for donkey years that the government is a continuum, and that it is always good for people to, let process just breathe. It doesn't matter whether they were the ones that formulated the policy or not. So is that an argument that you buy?
It's an argument that makes him look sillier than he's looking with the policy. Those who try to defend him saying that that policy was inherited, they're not helping him. They present him like a zombie that is not capable of thinking and capable of being of evolving. What kind of talk is that? So he has not asked himself why the people before him have left that thing coolly in the drawers. Because it's not realistic, because it's wrong. Why? So he's embracing that. Why has he not embraced other policies about education improvement, about building infrastructures? He didn't need to. Look, if you have a policy that is there before you, you can announce that you are throwing away that policy and make your case for it. Otherwise, you leave it. It's like, it's like those people who send you WhatsApp message and they say it as copied, or what's that thing they write that upsets me? Sent as received.
Sent as received.
Why are you sharing it if you don't agree with it? What you said as received? You must share it. Say, I want you to see it. You must send it with a comment, not just send as received. It doesn't matter. Those people who say tweets are not for endorsement. Why tweeting it if you don't agree with it? If you don't agree with it, you tweet it or you share it and say, I disagree with this. Have a look at it. So you can't just say just because you inherit things, you do it. That doesn't make sense. Once you're there, you must have your imprint. Government is a continuum, yes, in terms of responsibility, but we can look at things, debate them, and improve them. Otherwise, we're still going to be stuck to the rules of God knows how long ago. That doesn't make sense at all.
The law, as the policy as it is now, has been suspended until 2025. What do you think, as a strategy man? What do you think stakeholders in the industry should be doing now in anticipation of the reintroduction of that policy?
I think they should get together and make sure they kill it so it is not reintroduced. Those who disagree, they should not wait. They should not say, oh, it's gone away. And I think they should remind the minister every time he comes to them and remind him of being the man who brought a policy and then took it back. It just shows that there's not well thought through. But I think the stakeholders should make sure that this debate is not just left or suspended. It is dealt with finally, so that we understand that we should, when we have a choice between patience and brilliance, we should go for brilliance.
Last question. What do you make of this mad rush that Nigerians have, engulfed themselves with lately? I mean, the trooping of Nigerians to neighboring countries like Ghana, Cotonou, to earn a bachelor. Isn't that an indictment on our educational system?
Well, it is an indictment. It is an indictment, but I don't blame the people doing it, though, because in fairness, everybody's trying to get a better life, whether you're a jackpot to go and work abroad or you're a jackpot to go and study in another country, whether it's far away or next to you. Everybody has a right and a duty to get the best they can get out of life. It's a misconception of saying, oh, they're not patriotic or this. That doesn't make sense at all. What we need to do, if we want them to stay in Nigeria, is to provide good reasons for people to be in Nigeria. Provide good education. Nobody will tell them to stay. We should be doing our education in a way that is good enough to keep our own people here and even get people from outside to come to us. But we set up a system where they go on strike, where you're not sure, where the university does not communicate well, where the lecturers become rapists or sadists or torture your life. Why do you want to do that? Where you're not sure of the thing. We need to put things in place. It's it's about vision and process to say, here's what we want to go to. I am working with some universities, to make them world-class universities. And, we sit down, we say, this is what we want to do. This is how we want to stand out. And, let's go for it. That's the way to do it. Everywhere it has worked in the world, everywhere it has worked in history, there was a plan. There were some men and women who were able to do it and make it happen. And that's what we need to do.
Thank you very much for this honor, Professor Anthony Kila, Professor of Strategy and Development, and is also the director of the Center for International Advanced and Professional Studies. He's also a farmer, an essayist. There's a long list of cards that he wears. Thank you for this honor. I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good talking to you.